Okay, folks, we are one day away from the presidential election of 2020. And boy, if you've been following this thing, Biden is way ahead. Right. That's the way it looks. And that's what the conventional wisdom is. And that is what we should all believe. Right? Well, not everybody's thinking that way. Let's take a look. So, looking at 538, Nate Silver's baby, he shows that Biden is clearly favored to win the election. So he has him at about a 90% chance of winning, right? So if we take a look at the map that they have, and they're compiling this from a bunch of different polls, and they compile those polls together, which have been, again, conventional wisdom, everything's saying that Biden will win. He has Biden winning at 90 times out of 100 when they work their models. But folks, models are models. They're not reality. And I just want to say right up front that this is going to be all opinion, right? We have models. We have predictions. We have polls. We know that there's issues with the polls and the way that people have been responding to them. So we don't really know what's going to go on with the elections tomorrow and possibly over the next week or so. So let's see. Even Nate Silver himself. I'm here to remind you that Trump can still win. A 10% chance isn't zero, and there's a chance of a recount. It's tempting to write this story in the form of narrative fiction. On a frigid early December morning in Washington, the Supreme Court ruled 5-4 that disputed mail ballots in Pennsylvania. You know, that kind of thing. But given the stakes in this election, I think it's important to be prosaic and sober-minded instead. So I think this is Nate Silver trying to hedge here a little bit because things are starting to shift. People that are paying attention kind of feel that there's some sand shifting underneath. Now, again, numbers of the polls completely disregard that. Numbers have been pretty consistent for months. And if anything, Joe Biden's lead has been increasing over time. All right, so let's state a few basic facts. The reasons that President Trump's chances in our forecast are about 10% and not zero. As in 2016, Trump could potentially benefit from the Electoral College. Projected margins in the tipping point states are considerably tighter than the margins in the national popular vote. Right, people. So it's all about the Electoral College. That is what you go after. That was the strategy in 2016. I suppose it's the strategy every presidential election year with every presidential candidate. You need the Electoral College to win, not the popular vote. More specifically, Joe Biden's lead in Pennsylvania, the most likely tipping point state, according to our forecasts, is solid but not spectacular. About 5 points in our polling average. Without Pennsylvania, Biden does have some paths to victory, but there's no one alternative state he can feel especially secure about. So it looks like a lot of this is going to go to Pennsylvania, folks. That was the big deal in 2016. Looks like it's the big deal again. While a lot of theories about why Trump can win, example those about shy Trump voters, are probably wrong, systemic polling errors do occur, and it is hard to predict them ahead of time or to anticipate the reasons in advance. There is some chance that Trump could win illegitimately. I don't know what that means, but okay. To a large extent, these scenarios are beyond the scope of our forecast. There's also some chance of a recount, about 4%, or an electoral college tie, around 5.5%, according to our forecast. So what are some other people thinking? This is Nate Silver. So this came out this weekend from CBS. Biden leads. Trump needs election day surge to win. CBS News Battleground Tracker. Joe Biden heads into election day, preferred by voters who have already cast their ballots early. President Trump has a lead among those who plan to show up on November 3rd. So we're talking about that big red wave that Trump is talking about, right? And that a lot of Trump voters believe is going to happen. So this is what people on the Trump side are hoping for. They're thinking it's going to happen. And this is those who are on the Biden side or are fearful of. All right. So will Biden's lead hold up? If we trot out the old horse race analogy, Biden has a lead, but we still don't know how long the track is. We need to see how big that election day vote will be. So we took our baseline state model estimates from our initial polling, which sums to Biden holding an electoral college lead heading into election day, and also estimated what it would take for each candidate to ultimately win. We estimate from our polling that Mr. Trump is doing, on average, over 30 percentage points better among likely election day voters than early voters. We know the approximate size of the early vote so far, and we vary the potential size of the election day vote to explore two scenarios. So we're looking at a graphic here. It's showing that on the Biden side, 66% of people have already voted. 27% are planning to vote on election day. 32% of Trump voters have already voted, and 69% are planning to vote on election day, meaning that there are a lot more Trump voters who will be voting on election day. In our Republican surge scenario, the size of the election day vote is relatively large. So given that these voters break for Mr. Trump, it mitigates Biden's early vote edge. And Mr. Trump inches out close wins in enough states to go over 270. We increase the size of the election day vote by an average of 7 points in this scenario, while keeping vote preferences among early voters and election day voters fixed. But it doesn't take much for this to break big the other way. If some of the people planning to vote on Tuesday decide not to show up, and the size of the election day vote decreases by an average of 3 points from our initial estimates, the net result is pretty dramatic. Given Biden's overall preference leads, nearly all the competitive states either flip to Biden or stay in his column, giving him a comfortable win. In our baseline scenario, Biden has a narrow electoral college edge with many state toss-ups. So they're showing here the battleground tracker, where they are now, the Republican surge scenario. So if there was this surge that actually everybody does believe is going to happen, it shows that Biden would have 259 electoral votes and Trump 279. And here's your early vote dominates scenario. So if things stay as they are now and Trump voters do not show up tomorrow at the polls, I think that's a pretty unlikely scenario, guys. I think that, guys and gals, I think that, and to all the other guys and gals and other people that I missed there, sorry. I think this is very unlikely that Trump voters won't show up tomorrow. So with Mr. Biden campaign having banked on so many early votes, Mr. Trump is very reliant upon robust turnout among his supporters this Tuesday. Election day voters support the president in large numbers in the most competitive states. The question is, will they follow through? They will follow through. I'm pretty confident of that. I'll be shocked. They will have to be a day before October, well, I guess November surprise. What will stop them from going? All right, let's look at who these people might be. So again, more opinion. This is from Byron York on the Washington Examiner. Butler, Pennsylvania. A man who came to President Trump's giant rally at a local airport Saturday night said he knew someone who planned to vote for Trump but felt too intimidated to say so publicly. I asked who it was. It was his mother, he answered, but she would kill him if she found out that he told anyone. There were a lot of people who are too afraid to put a sign for Trump, he said, explaining that his neighborhood, more than an hour away, was mixed between Trump and Biden voters and black and white voters. During the protests that followed the death of George Floyd, he said, I pulled the Trump magnet off my Jeep. Everybody took their signs down. People don't want to be a target. Yes, People don't want to be a target. I could tell you my own neighborhood, there are some Biden signs, something that in 2016, I did not see Hillary Clinton signs, very, very, very few. And I saw a lot of Trump signs. I'm starting to see some Trump signs starting to crop up, but there's a fair number of Biden signs. People have been afraid to be a target. I talk to people personally. They say, I'm not putting the sign up. And I know a lot of people like me aren't doing it. We're too afraid. We're afraid that they're going to do something to us. Because they have been rioting. They have been causing damage to property. They have been intimidating people. They have been canceling people. Who is they? They is the left. That is why a lot of people believe there's going to be a huge surge. This is not just a huge surge of, the old 2016 Trump voters. There's a bunch of people that don't like what's been going on in the culture war, shall we say. And I'm one of those people. I think the culture war is a big deal. People feeling like they're afraid to say what they think because they're afraid they're going to lose their job. I know some Chinese Americans who came from communist China say, I don't understand what's happening. Why do people, this is what's great about this country is you can talk openly about things. Why do people feel that they can't talk? This is the wrong move. The same thing you get with Cubans, the same thing you hear from some of the Russians. They say echoes of what happened in the Soviet Union and some of the other satellite countries. They don't like what they are seeing. Anyway, let me continue here. At some pro-Trump events around Pennsylvania in the last week, the president's event, a big road rally that stretched over 3 states, a small event for Trump volunteers, and activists fearing Ivanka Trump, and in other conversations, a large number of people who openly support Trump say they knew someone personally who would vote for the president, but would not publicly acknowledge doing so. So there's a shy Trump voter who's afraid. Who else might be? Who else might come out? Will blacks, Hispanics deliver victory for Trump? New report says Democrats are worried that he is making inroads into the communities. So this is from Just the News. Republicans have a dismal record with black voters. George W. Bush got 9% of the black vote in 2000, then made a heavy outreach and soared in 2004 to 11%. In 2012, Mitt Romney pledged to help the black community more than had President Barack Obama, who got 95% of their 2008 vote. If equal opportunity in America were an accomplished fact, then a chronically bad economy would be equally bad for everyone, Romney said at an NAACP speech. Instead, it's worse for African Americans in almost every way. The unemployment rate, the duration of unemployment, average income, and median family wealth are all worse for the black community. Romney ended up with 6% of the black vote. While besting Romney's performance by a third in 2016 with 8%, Trump still failed to crack double digits. But during that campaign, Trump declared, at the end of 4 years, I guarantee you that I will get 95% of the African American vote. I promise you, because I will produce. Yeah, anyone that believes that, boop. All right. Well, that's never going to happen. But there is new signs that Trump could do better than he did in 2016, not only with blacks, but Hispanics too. Consider the findings of a recent Rasmussen poll. If the presidential election was held today, would you vote for Donald Trump or Joe Biden? The pollster asked. The findings were shocking. 31% of black voters said they'd vote for Trump. This is from a tweet from Rasmussen reports. October 29, 2020, Morning Reader data points. If the presidential election was held today, would you vote for Donald Trump or Joe Biden? National Daily Black Likely Voter Percent for POTUS, October 26 through 29th, 2020. Monday, 10/26, 27%. Tuesday, this is last week, guys, 30%. Wednesday, 10/28, 30%. Thursday, 10/29, 31%. And my understanding is that's mostly black men who've been breaking for President Trump. They feel that they've got a lot in common with the guy and they like him. All right, let's continue on. And some of the other stuff, some of the black programs that he has supported. All right, so this is from The Hill. Positive Trump polls spark polling circle debate. Most pollsters show Democrat presidential nominee Joe Biden with a sturdy and stable lead over President Trump at a time when tens of millions of people have already voted and there's almost no time to change the course of the race. But a handful of contrarian pollsters believe Trump's support is underrepresented and that election analysis could be headed for another embarrassing miss on election day. The battles have spilled onto social media, where some well-known political analysts have dismissed polls that show Trump leading Biden. The Trafalgar Group, which was the only nonpartisan outlet in 2016 to find Trump leading in Michigan and Pennsylvania on election day, shows Trump with small leads in both states, which would be keys to another Trump win in the Electoral College. Nearly every other pollster shows Biden with a comfortable lead. Trafalgar's Robert Cahaly says there's a hidden Trump vote that is not being accounted for in polls that show Biden on a glide path to the White House. There are more shy Trump voters than last time, and it's not even a contest, Cahaly says, adding that it's quite possible that the polling industry is headed for a catastrophic miss in 2020. So, is Trafalgar, are they just looking to be the outliers so they get a lot of press? That's a strong possibility because, again, if you look at the confluence of polls, and I'm not showing the real clear politics, it's been showing the divide with Biden going up as time has gone. 538's Nate Silver and Cook political report editor Dave Wasserman are among those deeply skeptical of Cahaly's polling. Both have dug into the crosstabs of Trafalgar polls and pointed to questionable breakdown as evidence Trafalgar doesn't know what it's doing. For instance, the crosstabs in a Michigan poll, which are no longer online, appear to show Trump leading Biden by 8 points among young voters, a Democratic stronghold. Trafalgar doesn't disclose their proprietary digital methods, so I can't really evaluate what they're doing, said John McHenry, Republican pollster with North Star Opinion Research. They're far enough out on a limb that a year from now, we'll all remember if they were very right or very wrong. Correct. So here's another point. Here's another data point that suggests that the way polling is happening is not correct, or at least they've been working with an experimental type of polling where this is USC Dornsif or Dornsify. I have no idea. Anyway, what they do in these polls is that they ask, who are your friends going to vote for? Who do you think your friends are going to vote for? How do you think your state is going to vote? And what they find in these polls is that if they go by the who do you think your friends are going to vote for, who do you think your state is going to go for, that it leans towards Trump winning the battleground states. This election season, the USC Dornsif Daybreak poll is reporting predictions for the presidential election based on a few different methodologies. The poll's standard methodology is to ask panel participants what the chances that they will vote for each of the candidates running for president. It's known as the voter intention question. The question asked by most polls to predict the share of popular vote that each candidate will receive. In this year's Daybreak poll, researchers are asking participants 2 additional questions that are intended to, as they say, harvest the wisdom of crowds to predict the election outcome. The social circle question asks respondents to report the percentage of their social contacts they expect to vote for each of the candidates. The other one, known as the state winner question, asks participants who they think will win the election in their state. The research studying the data related to these wisdom of the crowds questions are Juan de Bruin of U.S. Dornsif, blah, blah, blah. All right, what's the value of asking people which candidate they expect other people in the social circle to vote for? From our previous research on social judgments, we learned that people seem to know their immediate circles quite well. Their answers about the distribution of income, health status, even the relationship satisfaction of their friends, family, and acquaintances. were often in the right ballpark, and when we average the data from their responses across large national sample, it provided a surprisingly accurate picture of the overall populations. So we are hoping to learn whether it's possible from this question to harvest this wisdom of one's own crowd. All right. Have responses to this question successfully predicted any previous election outcomes? Yes. In all 5 of the elections in which we tested this question, the social circle question predicted election outcomes better than traditional questions about voters' own intentions. These 5 elections were 2016 U.S. presidential election, the 2017 French presidential election, the 2017 Dutch parliamentary election, the 2018 Swedish parliamentary election, and the 2018 U.S. election for House of Representatives. In both the U.S. elections, the social circle questions predicted national and state level results better than the own intention questions in the same polls. In fact, data from the social circle question in 2016 accurately predicted which candidate won each state, so it predicted Trump's electoral college victory. It's important to acknowledge, however, that we're still studying the predictive capability of this question, and we don't know if it will be successful in this election cycle. It's possible the pandemic could impact responses to this question because reduced interaction with friends and family might hinder the ability to predict how they'll vote. Could very well be. Could be that they gauge their intentions by social media. I don't know. So which presidential candidate is predicted to win based on responses to the social circle question so far? The social circle question is predicting Biden will win the popular vote, but by a much slimmer margin than what's being predicted by the standard voter intention question in the USC Dornsif Daybreak poll and most others regarding how poll participants themselves plan to vote. When we calculate how many electoral votes each candidate could get based on the state level averages of their own intention and circle social questions, it's looking like an electoral college loss for Biden. We should note that our poll was not designed for state level predictions, and that some states we have very few participants. Even so, in 2016, it predicted that Trump would win the electoral vote. All right, let's go a little bit more into Trafalgar. Trafalgar says that, looking at their methodology, the Trafalgar Group delivers its polling questionnaires utilizing a mix of 6 different methods: live callers, integrated voice response, text messages, emails, 2 other proprietary digital methods they don't share publicly. So they're doing some proprietary stuff. Let's look at some of their recent polling. So what Trafalgar is saying, who was very accurate in 2016, Wisconsin is going Biden 46.1 to 45.4. Minnesota is going Biden 45.9 to 43.7. Nevada is going Biden 47.6 to 45.2. Michigan is breaking Trump 46.5 to 44.1. Maybe that's what Michael Moore is feeling when he's doing his videos saying, "Don't underestimate Trump, he's an evil genius." Anyway, Ohio is breaking Trump 49.2 to 44.4. Arizona breaking Trump 47.5 to 45.2. Now, very important, Florida. Trafalgar has Florida breaking Trump 47.8, 45.7. And the most critical, Pennsylvania, is very slight, but he has a very slight break for Trump. 46.7, 45.8. So if I go back to 538's tools, they have a tool where you can plug in who's expected to win or not, or which states. If I plug in Trafalgar's numbers, if you remember, there was that 10% chance in the beginning. Well, if we plug in Trafalgar's, it looks like it has 95 out of 100 times for Trump to win with 294 electoral votes, and 5 in 100 for Biden to win with 244 electoral college votes. I don't know. Again, this is polling. He's an outlier, but he was a very accurate outlier in several elections. Nate Silver, without Pennsylvania, Biden becomes an underdog. Joe Biden will become an underdog if he fails to win Pennsylvania and its 20 electoral votes. 538 founder Nate Silver said on ABC this week, why it matters, Trump won the battleground by less than a point in 2016 as he narrowly sweeps swing states in the Rust Belt to secure a victory in the Electoral College. 538's average of polls currently shows Biden with a 5% lead in Pennsylvania. Wow, what a disconnect, huh? So 5% lead. And if we look at Trafalgar, they have Trump ahead by less than a point. I don't know. We just don't know, right? We had an endorsement this weekend by the Pittsburgh Gazette. Why it matters? This is Pittsburgh. This is Rust Belt. All right. Oh, what happened? All right. He's unpresidential. He's crude and unkind. He's just not a good man. These things and much worse are commonly said of President Donald Trump. His personality totally eclipses his record. So we seemingly have him on the dunk tank, ready for a very cold bath. Let's play dump the lout. But is this really what it's about? Isn't the real question whether he has been taking the country and the economy of this region, again being the Midwest, the Rust Belt, in the right direction in these last 4 years? Can we separate the man from the record? Should we share the embarrassment of millions of Americans who are disturbed by the president's unprecedented manners and character, his rudeness and put-downs and bragging and bending of the truth? Yes, I'm with you. I'm with you on all of that. None of this can be justified. The president's behavior often has diminished his presidency his presidency and the presidency. Most Americans want a president who makes them proud. We too prefer the first-class temperament and demeanor of Winston Churchill, Dwight Eisenhower, a Franklin Roosevelt, a Ronald Reagan, or a Barack Obama, whom this newspaper enthusiastically supported in 2008 and 2012. None of them are on the ballot this year. So let's look at the Trump record. Under Donald Trump, the economy pre-COVID boomed like no time since the 1950s. Look at your 401k over the past 3 years. Unemployment for Black Americans is lower than it has ever been under any president of either party. Under Mr. Trump, our trade relationships have vastly improved and our trade deals have been rewritten. Thanks to him, Middle America is on the map again, and the Appalachian and hourly worker has some hope. Has Mr. Trump done enough for these struggling fellow citizens? No, but he recognizes them. Maybe he was not articulate, but he recognized their pain. No one ever asked the American people or the people in flyover country if they wanted to send their jobs abroad until Mr. Trump. That's right. That is a major issue, folks. Jobs have been moving overseas. There's been a concerted effort, right, with globalism, which ties into a bigger elitist narrative, right? Globalism tends to benefit the elites and those that already have. So for Rust Belt states, for, dirt under the fingernails states, this stuff matters. I'm not going to continue, but I do want to take a look at a tweet from Jack Posobiec. This was from Saturday. Trump crowd in Butler, PA is jaw-dropping. So what I understand, there was something around 58,000 people that showed up for this Trump rally in Rust Belt. There feels like there's momentum for Trump now. I don't know how else to say it. It just feels like it. The numbers tell you no. Like this is not what's going to happen. The numbers say Biden is winning. There's nothing you could do about that. And yet, some of the things I showed you today paint perhaps a little bit different picture, right? I mean, here it is. I go back to Nate Silver's his chart based on the polls. And again, we have 10 out of 100 for Trump to win and 90 out of 100 for Biden to win. I don't know. But maybe what is the most important poll that we've seen this whole cycle? The 2020 vote preferences of 102 common first names. This is from the New York Times. So let's see. It looks like people with the name Richard have broke for Trump 64% of the time versus Biden 36. Well, those with the name Karen have broke for Trump 40% of the time and Biden for 60% of the time. So what does that tell us? Basically, if you vote for Trump, they think you're a dick. And if you vote for Biden, you're a Karen. All right. That's it, folks. Get out and vote tomorrow. Very important. Please share this with other people if you think it's something they need to hear. Give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Leave us any comments you have. Thank you very much. Till next time.